Hey everyone, Simon here with Top Tennis Training, and in this video I want to help you to instantly improve your tennis serve using these 3 simple tips. Now if you want more help with your serve, we have a free serve guide that you can download right away. I'll leave the link below this video. Now the first tip is all about the ball toss. So if you ask most players, what do you struggle with on your serve, they'll tell you, I struggle with a ball toss. I struggle with placing that ball in a similar spot time and time again. In my experience, the main reason players struggle with their ball toss is because they throw the ball way too high. In their minds, they're imagining that they have to throw the ball very high in order to hit that ball at the highest spot, their maximum contact point. And this isn't true. Now, if we look at the pros, there isn't one way to throw the ball. If we look at players like Thomas Berdych, on one side of the spectrum, he throws the ball a couple of feet above his contact point. And then on the other side, we have Nick Kyrgios, who throws the ball quite low, but still hits the ball close to the apex, but that's his maximum contact point. If he was going to throw the ball any higher, he'd simply be waiting in that trophy position or somewhere in the motion. And between both Berdych and Kyrgios, you'll have a variety of players with a mixture of ball tosses, some higher, some lower. In general, in my experience, players who struggle with their ball toss, if you ask them to simply lower their ball toss, it almost always improves their serve. And it's simple. If I'm going to hit the ball at 6'8", if that's my maximum contact point, and I'm throwing the ball an extra 1, 2, or even 3 feet higher than that, when the ball starts traveling down, it starts to pick up speed. So I'm trying to hit an object now that's moving. The higher I throw the ball, the faster it's traveling when I'm trying to make contact, which makes my job as a server much, much harder. And on the flip side of that, if I'm hitting the ball close to the apex, close to the peak of my ball toss, the ball is traveling very slowly, if it's traveling at all. So when we release the ball travels up, it hits the apex, and it starts to travel down. But there's a slight pause. So it's coming up, slight pause, and it's coming down. The closer you can hit it to that slight pause, so the apex of the ball toss, the less the ball's going to be moving, so it's almost as if you're hitting a stationary object. This is much easier to time for the vast majority of tennis players, and this is why tip number 1 is lower your ball toss, see how low you can throw that ball, but still make contact at your highest spot. Give yourself a challenge and say, how low can I throw this ball without wasting that time in the trophy position or in the racket drop position? Because the higher you throw the ball, the slower your motion is going to be, and the more glitches can show up on your motion. Now if your ball toss is quite low, you're going to have to speed up the motion in order to hit the ball close to your maximum height. And in order to do this, your motion will become much smoother because it will be more fluid. It won't be as rigid and segmented as if someone who is waiting for that ball toss to drop down. So the best way to imagine that ball toss is to think about placing the ball. Place the ball where you want it to be when you're making contact. If you think about placing it, this will automatically slow down the tossing arm, and this will lower the ball toss right away. So you're placing the ball and not throwing the ball. That's tip number 1 to instantly transform your ball toss. Tip number 2 is all about balancing the upper body. Now if you look at most mistakes on the serve that happen when players are tight, when players are nervous in the pressure of a match, a lot of it comes down to hitting the ball into the net. So players hitting into the net. Now one of the main reasons why players hit a serve into the net is because they drop the upper body, so the upper body collapses. Now the first reason this happens is their non-hitting hand, so that tossing arm. After you release the ball, you want that tossing arm to stay up, so you want that tossing arm to be pointing at your contact point or at the ball. So when I release the ball, I want my non-hitting hand, this is my left hand if you're a right-handed player, to be pointing towards that ball, almost tracking the ball for me, but also this will keep my upper body balanced. If your non-hitting hand drops, this will force the left shoulder to drop. This will force the upper body to then collapse. So by keeping that left hand up, It allows you to stay tall on the surface motion, and it allows you to direct your energy up to the point of contact. And it's all about directing as much power, as much force into that contact point. Remember, on the serve, the target is not the service box. The target is the ball. Everything that I'm doing should be directed towards hitting that ball in the best way possible. Now, the second part is players dropping their head at the contact point. How often have you seen someone making contact and collapsing down as they hit the shot? This happens a lot with club players, and this is because they're not tracking the ball. Now, it's very hard to physically see the ball making contact with the strings, but what you want to do is track it right until that point. So just before you're making contact, I'm seeing the ball, I'm seeing my target, and as the ball comes off my strings, I'm still seeing it. So I'm seeing a blur as the ball is making contact, and I'm seeing the ball pop off my strings. I want to track the ball all the way from prior to contact until my opponent makes contact on the other side of the net. If you're tracking the ball from your racket to your opponent's racket, it will give you a lot of guidance on their next shot, and this will help you react quicker to their return. And the third tip to instantly improving your serve is your intentions with that serve. So we're talking about flat versus slice versus topspin. For many players on the first serve, their intentions is to hit it as hard as possible, as flat as possible, and go all out with that first serve. And if they miss it, they then rely on that kind of a push second serve, either with a bit of slice or they try to kick it a little bit. Now, if you're someone who uses the flat serve and it works well for you, you're hitting 60-70% of your first serves in, then stick to that. You're doing great and you're doing something really right with that motion. But if you're someone who's doing that tactic and it's not working for you, you're missing a lot of first serves and you're relying on your second serve way too often, then here is a simple way to instantly increase your first serve percentage. All you have to do is imagine, instead of going for a first serve that's basically flat, you're going for a 1.5 serve. So it's between your first and your second serve, which means I'm going to increase the spin rate, and I'm also going to increase the margins, which means I'm going to go higher over the net and closer in to the box. I'm not going to go for the lines. So I'm going for bigger targets and I'm increasing the spin. Now, if you start slicing a lot of your first serves, even towards the backhand targets, you'll notice that your first serve percentage increases instantly because you have a lot more spin, you have a lot more margin to miss that serve with. If you're constantly going for that flat serve, it's very, very hard to consistently hit the lines or consistently hit it in when you're going with so little on that ball. Now, most pros don't hit the first serve completely flat. They'll have a bit of spin. To some degree, it will either have a little bit of slice or a little bit of kick. Sampras was great at hitting a first serve that had quite a bit of kick, but it was a first serve. He had massive racket head speed. So his spin rates on his first serve were higher than many players on their second serve. This shows you that it's not all about the flatness and that pure power, it's also about how you place that ball and being able to do it time and time again under pressure. So there you have it, guys, 3 ways to instantly improve your serve. Tip number 1 is all about the ball toss. Place that ball instead of throwing the ball. Tip number 2 is all about creating good balance in the upper body, and this means holding that left hand up until the very last second and making sure that your head stays up, tracking the ball until the contact point. And step number 3 is all about your margins, your intentions. How are you trying to hit that ball? Or are you going for more of a safer serve that will get the ball in time and time again? If you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and please make sure that you turn on that notification bell so you get our latest videos as soon as we release them. Signing off, Simon from T2T, all the best and see you soon, guys.